AI's Dirty Secret, or How to Spend $500,000 of Supercomputing. Episode 1. Monkeys Climbing Trees to Reach the Moon. Imagine a student flat in Scotland in the mid-1980s. Now, picture an odd couple of flatmates studying odd things. Canadian Mark Drummond is doing a PhD in artificial intelligence. This is partly because his parents are Scottish, but mainly because Edinburgh has the only AI department outside North America. Mark is fascinated by using technology to change how we live. Anglo-Australian Robert Stern started studying politics and philosophy. When he discovered Edinburgh was the only Scottish university with a Chinese department, he switched courses. Robert is fascinated by how humans live with or change the environment. Robert reckons AI is voodoo magic. He loves hearing Mark try to explain it. Mark finds Chinese voodoo magic. He loves hearing Robert try to explain it. Over the kitchen table, Mark outlines an ongoing debate between AI pioneers. Some believe robots can, in principle, one day emulate human intelligence. Others reckon it's like monkeys climbing trees to reach the moon. They may make progress, but not meaningfully. In response, Robert grabs a pen and paper to tell Mark a classical Chinese dirty joke he's just stumbled across. It's just as vulgar as you'd expect a joke about a lusty monk and a winsome nun to be, but it requires writing Chinese, and it dates back to the Tang dynasty. Mark and Robert graduate. Their paths diverge, but they stay in touch. Gradually, events make their obscure study choices look increasingly smart. As computing power grows, AI monkeys ascend further up trees. Mark's AI doctorate becomes a hot property. As China grows, the sleeping giant awakes. Robert's Chinese skills become more employable. Mark works on the Mars rover at NASA. He joins the team that made Siri and sells it to Apple. He becomes a serial dot-com entrepreneur at the cutting edge of real-world AI applications. He thrives on both sides of the Silicon Valley venture capital pitching table. Robert trades textiles at a Japanese multinational, then quits to move to Tokyo. Now fluent in formal office Japanese, he touts himself as an environmental consultant to major Japanese corporations. He fails, falls into TV news, produces and reports for American network news in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Shanghai and Beijing. He moves home to Britain to make documentaries, teach filmmaking and journalism, broadcast and consult for international co-productions, sports events and TV entertainment formats. Throughout, Robert and Mark stay in touch, still fascinated by each other's field of study. Throughout, China and AI continue their ascent from obscurity to dominance. Throughout, Robert's 80s concerns about the human impact on the environment grows from an eccentric hobby to become a focus on an existential crisis. By 2021, Mark heads an AI project at Apple so secret his immediate boss isn't allowed to know what it is. If we told you what it was, we'd both either probably be dead or very senior Apple executives. In 2021, Robert abandons paid work to set up a social media network called See-Through News, applying storytelling tricks to carbon reduction. 30 years after failing to make up a paid job as an environmental consultant, Robert succeeds in making up an unpaid one. The See-Through News goal is speeding up carbon drawdown by helping the inactive become active. He and a group of volunteers create a series of eye and ear-catching projects: a newsletter, a podcast, community filmmaking, Facebook notice boards, even an AI project. They appear unconnected, but are actually different starting points to the same destination of measurably reducing carbon. Each project is designed to appeal to some group or other of ordinary people as a point of engagement. It was called See-Through News for two reasons. One, its unconventional methodology, while convoluted, was transparent. Like a conjurer explaining his tricks as a DVD extra, every manipulation and trick was explained to the curious. 2. See-through things don't signal their purpose. Having observed that many climate activist organisations with words like green, sustainable or carbon in their titles deterred some ordinary people as soon as they saw these names, Robert thought it worth trying to first engage people with activities that were appealing in their own right before revealing any carbon-reducing purpose. Most people recognise the science and reality of climate change, but feel powerless to do anything about it. See-Through News deployed green trigger words as little and as late as possible, ideally not at all. As well as the school projects, film screenings and video games, Robert regularly writes journalistic articles offering climate perspectives on hot topics, which he publishes every Sunday in the See-Through News newsletter. In 2022, large language models finally thrust AI from backstage obscurity. Blinking in the limelight, ChatGPT emerges as AI's breakout star. Thanks to Mark and other AI student university friends, Robert has tracked AI developments since the 1980s, but is frustrated by the gap between what his AI chums tell him and what appears in news headlines. As a TV reporter, Robert is used to condensing complex stories into 2-minute reports, so he knows all too well why mainstream media thrusts AI into the binary boxes of good robot story and bad robot story. Now, as a climate activist, Robert reckons mainstream media isn't providing the deeper, nuanced understanding of AI's actual technology that we should require in order to arrive at an informed opinion on this hot topic. To bridge the gap, Robert writes an article for the newsletter. Recalling the phrase Mark used in that student flat to describe AI in its 1980s infancy, he calls it AI, climate change, and monkeys climbing trees to reach the moon. In his research, Robert comes across a cloud computing management startup. UK-based Yellow Dog claims to offer the greenest form of AI processing available. Robert smells greenwash. He contacts Yellow Dog to challenge their claim. Tom Beese has just taken over as CEO of Yellow Dog, in addition to heading 4 other bleeding-edge high-tech startups, but not only takes Robert's call, but welcomes his interest. Over many long phone calls, Tom patiently explains exactly how Yellow Dog's advanced mathematics and cutting-edge tech minimize computing's carbon footprint. Tom's contributions and imaginative analogies involving football stadia form a key part of the article. It's not all business. Tom is curious about See-Through News and Robert's journey to founding it. Robert is intrigued by Tom's previous lives as a lawyer, army captain, novelist and boss of a virtual semiconductor fabricator. The business bit is shocking, just not in the way Robert anticipated. He thought he knew a thing or two about both AI and computing, but is appalled by what Tom now tells him. In episode 2, AI's Dirty Secret, Robert keeps digging and discovers a dirty secret.
AI's Dirty Secret, or How to Spend $500,000 of Supercomputing, was narrated by George Hinchliffe, who also wrote the music. It was written, produced and mixed by Robert Stern. The See-Through News podcast is a See-Through News production. See-Through News is a zero-budget social media network with the goal of speeding up carbon drawdown by helping the inactive become active. For more, visit seethroughnews.org. Thank you for listening.